So I said I was going to circle back to this because there were a lot of just Josh Whedon supporters on that last video. And it's so much worse. It is so much worse than I initially thought it was, because the article that I read didn't really go in depth into a lot of the bullshit that Joss Whedon has essentially gotten up to. And Vulture basically did a weekend sit down with Whedon at his house, where they picked his brain and got into his mind and asked him a lot of questions about why he is the way that he is and about a lot of the allegations. Here are the highlights. I'm just gonna go over the highlights. I had to take notes. I don't typically take notes, but I had to take notes because holy fuck, it is so much worse than I thought it was. Let's hop over to browse view. I got my notes right here. All right, we're just gonna go down, and there's more shit than this in the article. I just took what I found to be like the most cringe shit, not only from stories that they were able to verify from people who worked with Whedon in the past, but things that he said himself. So I will allow Joss Whedon himself to set the tone, right? From his own words. He wanted to tell a story about someone who turns out to be important, despite the fact that no one takes that person seriously. It took me a long time to realize that I was writing about me, and that my feeling of powerlessness and constant anxiety was at the heart of everything. His avatar was not a fearful young man, however, but a gorgeous girl with extraordinary courage. He wanted to be her. He wanted to fuck her. We're setting the tone. Let us continue. I just got tired of seeing women be the victims. I needed to see women taking control, so I can fuck them. You literally set the tone for this entire fucking interview in the first paragraph. You wanted to see women in control so that you could take that control for yourself. Classic gaslighting, narcissistic, douchebag, shithead behavior. But let us continue. Cynthia Bergstrom recalled an incident that happened during the filming of season 5, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, or its Angel. In one episode, Spike asked a sadistic science nerd to create a sex robot version of the Slayer. Whedon and Geller did not agree on what the Buffy bot should wear. Sarah was adamant about it being a certain way. Bergstrom said the costume she wanted was a bit grandma-ish, a pleated skirt, a high neck. He definitely wanted it to be sexier. On the day, Geller tried the different options. Whedon grew frustrated. I was like, Joss, let's just get her dressed, Bergstrom recalled. He grabbed my arm and dug his fingernails into it, imprinting into my skin. I said, you're hurting me. I mentioned before in that last video that he grabbed Spike because his character was popular and slammed him up against the wall. And people were like, but what about the proof? James Marsden actually talks about this. Like, he was on Michael Rosenbaum's Inside of You podcast, where he talks about the fact that Spike's character was so popular that the studio didn't want to kill him. Whedon became pissed because in his script he had already killed Spike, and instead of going to the studio, he went to the person he had power over, and he slammed him up against a fucking wall. He was doing this the entire time on both Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, and Firefly. Continuing to Firefly, a Firefly writer remembered him belittling a colleague for writing a script that wasn't up to par. Instead of giving her notes privately, he called a meeting with the entire writing staff. It was basically 90 minutes of vicious mockery, the writer said. Whedon pretended to have a slide projector. He said her dialogue out loud and pretended he was giving a lecture on terrible writing as he went through the slides and made funny voices. Funny for him because nobody else in the fucking room was laughing. The guys were looking down at their pages, and this woman was fighting back tears the entire time. I've had my share of shitty showrunners, but the intent to hurt, that's the thing that stands out for me now. He's a douchebag. I've said this multiple times. Continuing on, they were soon joined by Charisma Carpenter, who played Cordelia on Buffy and its spin-off series, Angel. In a long Twitter post, she wrote that Whedon had a history of being casually cruel. As she became pregnant, heading into Angel's 4th season, he recalled her calling her fat to her colleagues and summoned her into his office to ask, as she recalled, if she was going to keep it. But you stand up for women? You're all about feminism? Okay, continuing on. Kai Cole, his wife. Once again, we are taking these words straight from the mouth of Whedon himself. These are not coming from some external source or someone he had an interaction with. This is what he told the reporter from Vulture in regards to him cheating on his wife. I feel fucking terrible about them. When I pressed him on why, he noted it messes up the power dynamic, but he didn't expand on that thought. Instead, he quickly added that he felt he had to sleep with them, that he was powerless to resist. I'm not actually joking, he said. He had been surrounded by beautiful young women, the sort of women who had ignored him when he was younger, and he feared that if he didn't have sex with them, he would always regret it. If that ain't some creepy shit right there. Dude was already pushing like 40, and you're out here using your advantage as a director to essentially sleep with 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. Speaking of extremely young people who worked for Joss Whedon, where is that? I don't think it's actually in here. I may have to look at something else. But there was a rule on set that Whedon couldn't be in the same room as a 16-year-old who worked there. Like, that was a general rule. The girl was 16 years old, and the crew and actors came to an agreement that Joss Whedon could not be in the same room as this 16-year-old girl. And that's verified by not only the actors and actresses themselves, but people who worked on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Now we're going to jump into a couple of relationships that Joss Whedon has had. Sarah, she's using a pseudonym, met Whedon when he was promoting Age of Ultron. She was 22 years old as a freelance writer who interviewed him for a pop culture website. After the piece published, they began a sexual relationship. He led me to believe he was single. One night, she went out for drinks alone with a friend Whedon wanted her to meet. Whedon is dating this girl. He introduces her to a friend that he thinks that she should meet. After the friend mentioned she had a long-term boyfriend, Sarah asked what his name was. I'm dating Joss Whedon, the woman replied. Sarah went into the bathroom and threw up. What the fuck is he playing at? Power dynamic. Like, he wanted her to know that she wasn't shit and she wasn't his main. It's just... oh boy. Continuing on. Erin Shade, a television writer who moonlights as a psychic medium, interesting, got involved with Whedon in 2013 while working as a showrunner's assistant on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., a series he created with his younger brothers, blah, 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 blah. He asked if she would come over to his house for the weekend to watch him write. He would pay $2,500, more than Shade made in a month as an assistant. There was one caveat: she had to hide it from her bosses. I would like to remind you that her bosses are essentially Joss Whedon's siblings, because it says up here that it was a series run by him, his younger brothers, and his brother's wife, which means that if she had let any of them know about this, they would have told her, fuck no. Now, she had to hide it from her bosses. They dated on and off for secret for nearly a year before she slept with him. Remember, this lady was a virgin. Not long after, he sent her a brief email telling her he couldn't have a girlfriend. So you dated this girl for an entire year, and then once you slept with her, it was over with, because you essentially got what you wanted. Like, you wanted to have sex with her because you found out that she was a virgin. But then once you got to have sex with her, the fun in the game was no longer there. So, like the shitbag that you are, you broke up with this lady. But that's not the cruelest breakup, in my opinion. Where is the cruelest breakup? Arden Leigh met Whedon in 2012. She was a sex educator in her 20s and author of The New Rules of Attraction, a book about being a single female pickup artist. In her book, she wrote about the worst experience of her life was when a boyfriend broke up with her on her birthday. So what did Joss Whedon do? Leigh wrote that one of her worst memory... No, hold on. It is down here. In 2015, hours before her birthday, he came to her house and told her their relationship was over. What? Whedon thought, what could I do to Arden that would be her worst nightmare? And that would have been it. He destroyed a beautiful thing just to show that he had the power to. That's literally everything you need to know about him. So she writes a book. In the book, she says that the worst experience of her life was a boyfriend breaking up with her on essentially her birthday. Joss Whedon chooses to break up with her on her birthday. So because that is what would hurt her the most. Now we're gonna wrap this up. We're gonna jump into the more recent stuff. We're gonna jump into the Snyder Justice League stuff, the meat and potatoes of what blew the lid on Joss Whedon. Now, in regards to WB and Snyder, Whedon said they lost faith in Snyder's vision and wanted him to take full control. This is of Justice League. A representative from Warner Brothers denied this. Snyder has publicly stated he left the project to spend time with his family after his daughter died of a suicide 2 months earlier. So essentially, WB came out after Joss Whedon said that he was brought on to essentially save the DC universe. WB came out and said that that's bullshit. You were not brought on for this reason. Zack had to leave because of the suicide in his family. And he was not able to focus on Justice League and give it its full attention because he was grieving, and so was his wife, who is his partner in making movies. So he had to leave. You were brought in to basically finish Snyder's vision. And you blew it up. Continuing from there, Ray Fisher, a young black actor, played Cyborg. It was his first major role. Snyder had centered the film on his character, the first black superhero in a DC movie. Is that true? Yeah, that might actually be true. And he treated Fisher as a writing partner, soliciting his opinions on the film's representations of black people. Whedon downsized Cyborg's role, cutting scenes that, in Fisher's view, challenged stereotypes. When Fisher raised his concerns about the revisions in a phone call, Whedon cut him off. It feels like I'm taking notes right now, Whedon told him, according to The Hollywood Reporter, and I don't like taking notes from anybody, not even Robert Downey Jr. Which is very, very interesting due to the fact that in both Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron, Robert Downey Jr. ad-libbed a ton of his lines. And you didn't say shit about it. Why? Because it's Robert Downey fucking Jr. You're not going to bully Robert Downey Jr. in any way, shape, or form because essentially he was Disney's cash cow. He was the man. You bully him, chances are he goes and complains and you get dropped like a bad habit, which is what I was saying earlier about narcissistic douchebags like this. They pick who they want to bully. Because somebody in my comments was like, he didn't bully Robert Downey Jr. and he didn't bully Samuel L. Jackson or Chris Evans or any of the people in the Avengers movies. No, he wouldn't. How could he? These people were made men. Like, if it came down, if push comes to shove, and Robert Downey Jr. and Samuel L. Jackson go to Disney and complain about you for being a fucking douchebag, you are gone. They don't tolerate it. You don't have power there. He didn't have power there. He was basically there to shoot a movie, then get the fuck out. Has no one ever asked a question as to why it is that all the directors who've made Marvel movies, great relationships. James Gunn was an outlier because it wasn't Marvel that fired him, it was Disney. And then Marvel was the ones who advocated for him and brought him back. But for the most part, when you're a director in the MCU, you're constantly making your next sequel, working on building your movie's mythos. Did it. Edgar Wright didn't do Ant-Man. I forgot who did Ant-Man, but the guy who's doing Ant-Man did it, where he's creating like his own bubble. The Russo brothers did it until they were given total control over the MCU. But ask yourself a question: why was Joss Whedon only there for the first Avengers and Age of Ultron? Why did he just magically fucking disappear? Like, no producer credits, no future directing credits. He made 2 Avengers movies, and poof, he was gone. What happened? Because you can look at Jon Favreau and go, Jon Favreau created the MCU with the original Iron Man, and he has writing credits here and there, not only on Iron Man, but in other things as well. So what exactly happened to Whedon? He just vanished, and he wasn't around anymore because Marvel just cut ties with him and kept it moving and handed it over to the Russos. But that's investigative journalism for a completely other day. Now, for Gal Gadot, Godot didn't care for Whedon's style either. Last year, she told reporters Whedon threatened her and said he would make her career miserable. Whedon told me he did no such thing. I don't threaten people. Who does that? He concluded that she had misunderstood him. English is not her first language. And I tend to be annoyingly flowery in my speech. He recalled arguing over a scene she wanted cut. The scene that she wanted cut was the boob landing scene, where essentially her character falls from the scaffolding and lands on the ground. In the Snyder cut, she just lands on the ground, stands up, flashes off to the side. In Whedon's cut, for whatever reason, when she lands on the ground, Flash runs into her and his face lands between her breasts, and then he kind of gets up and he's looking at her like super awkwardly. It's a really stupid scene that makes no fucking sense whatsoever. But that was the scene that Gal essentially wanted cut. Now, where was it? He told her jokingly that if she wanted to get rid of it, she would have to tie him to a railroad track and do it over his dead body. Then I was told that I had said something about her dead body and tying her to a railroad track. So this isn't Joss Whedon saying this. He's saying that other people came to him after this argument with Gal Gadot and told him that he told Gal Gadot that he would tie her body, her dead body, to a railroad track. Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman, the face of feminism. The face of feminism. Holy fuck. Godot didn't agree with Whedon's version of events. I understood perfectly. I already said that that was her response when she was asked for her input on what Whedon had said. Oh, and to wrap up the Godot thing, an actress on Angel told me that hadn't been true back when she knew him. After her agent pushed for her to get a raise, she claims Whedon called her at home and said she was never going to work for him or 20th Century Fox again. Reading Gal Gadot's quote, she thought, wow, he's still using that line. But this your king? This is the motherfucker that people want to come to bat for and defend and jump up and down and talk about, oh, he's misunderstood and he's fucking great. No, he's not. The people who worked with him on Buffy, Angel, and Firefly think he's a dick. Just because he got along great with a few couple people didn't mean he didn't create a living nightmare for a bunch of other people. That's not how it works. Like, I don't understand a lot of people's logic. Some of y'all logic like really fucking baffles me. It's like, oh, he couldn't have cheated on his wife. Him and his wife went out for dinner yesterday. He doesn't give a fuck about that. He admitted to the fact that he was cheating on his wife. He admitted to the fact that sometimes he got a little bit too passionate and he got handsy with people. James Marsters, who plays fucking Spike, admitted to the fact that Whedon slammed him up against the wall and choked him. Charisma Carpenter said that while she was pregnant, Whedon called her fat, told her that she would lose weight, and asked her if she was going to abort the baby. The guy's a dick. 100% across the board, a fucking asshole. Stop defending him. He's trash. And I've been saying he's trash all the way back since Angel. Like, I've been repeatedly saying he's trash since the early 2000s. He's garbage. Let him go back into his fucking hole and just disappear. And this is probably the last time I'm going to be like talking about Joss Whedon. Like, I'm exhausted. This, like I said, if you want to read the Vulture article, read the Vulture article. It's really good interviewing, where they not only have responses from Whedon, but they actively went out and spoke to these people that had these claims and then corroborated those claims with other people who worked on set. But holy shit, I have no idea how he sat down for this. Like, I would never, if I was in fucking trouble, I wouldn't talk to fucking anyone. You wouldn't see me again. I would just disappear into the background and just fade away. But yeah, hopefully this is the last time we hear about like Joss Whedon. I can only pray. But chances are next year, and I know exactly why this entire interview came about. It's because Disney canceled, no, was it Disney or was it HBO Max? Someone canceled a TV show that he was supposed to work on. Well, they didn't cancel it. They gave him the boot. So him attempting to rehabilitate his image has everything to do with the fact that no one wants to hire him anymore because the secret's out, the jig is up. Everyone knows you're a fucking douchebag. But I gotta go take a shower, man. Get this slime up off me. Like, hopefully we don't see Joss Whedon again, but chances are he's probably gonna pull one of these stunts next year, and he's gonna find somebody new to blame in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, let me know what you think. Comment down below. Tell me if you read the Vulture article. I'll link it in the description for people who want to read it, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.